Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Iferia, and today's guest is Leah Chrest. Leah spent years researching the mysteries of death. She read over 500 accounts of near-death experiences to write her book At the Edge of the Jordan. She was intellectually prepared for what comes after life. But life has a way of testing your research. The very day after her book was published, Leah's husband of 13 years passed away suddenly. In an instant, the theory became reality. But instead of crumbling, Leah found herself experiencing a peace that didn't make sense to the outside world. She is the author of It's Okay to Be Okay and a Christian meditation teacher. She is here to talk about the guilt of not grieving correctly, why we shouldn't fear death, and how to find joy when the world expects you to be broken. So, Leah, I am very excited to welcome you to the show. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Let's get started, Leah. The timing of your story is almost cinematic in a tragic way. You spent years studying death and the afterlife, and the day after you published your findings, your husband died. So in that moment of shock, did you feel like your research was a preparation gift from God, or did you feel like the universe was playing a cruel joke on you? I'd like to know how it felt.
I think, to be completely real and honest, it's a mix of everything. I say, and it's okay to be okay, that the day my husband passed, I had a lot of mixed reactions because, again, the book was fresh in my mind. I had just hit publish. I had read it like 8 times over the past couple months. So everything was very fresh in my head. And as they were trying to resuscitate him, I'm going to the resuscitation scene in the book and saying, oh, I got that wrong. This needs to be different. Which I felt horrible about at the time because I was still in the book. But at the same time, I was able to, the positive side of that was put a lot of faith and hope in that where he was and that relationship was still alive and well. And I can attest we're 4 years down the road and absolutely that relationship is alive and well and in ways that have completely surprised me in a beautiful way that I do still have a connection with my late husband between dreams and just knowings and things that have happened over the past 4 years. Life does absolutely go beyond death. Death is just, as I tell people now, when you wake up in the morning from a deep sleep and you have these dreams going on, and in the dream, you are so convinced that you're awake. This is reality. Then you actually wake up and you're thinking, how could I ever think that dream was the real deal? The same thing happens when we pass on. It isn't a falling asleep, it's a waking up. And the way our awareness on this level just amplifies in the next. And so there's nothing to fear, and we are not separated from those we love. We just can't access them on the physical level that we can on this earth. And so it absolutely gave me hope and peace, and also finally a sense of purpose, because grief, it was very difficult. He was there, the person that I go to for everything. He was there and then he wasn't. And then so many times, oh, I want to tell Brett this, I want to tell Brett that. And he's not there. I can talk to him, but it's not the same. And, that shock was really hard, but I had the wisdom to rely on that nothing happens in our lives by accident, that everything's here for us to help grow and learn and change. And so I was able to lean into that experience and say, okay, God, what do you want to show me? What do you want to show our children? What do you want to show the people around us through this? And how can I lean into you and your love and support during this time so that I can thrive and not just survive? So it's a lot of everything there.
All right, Leah, thank you very much for that great response. So you mentioned that for years you lived by Pascal's wager, believing in God just to be safe. So was the grief the fire that actually burned away the wager, and left you with actual faith?
It was no, I had a rock hard faith before the grief, in that the reading about the NDEs really, like, I do have a very logical mind, and seeing what I believed was as good as proof as you can get that God existed, and then having my own personal experiences to back it up even before he passed was helpful for sure. And that took my faith from a Pascal's wager of, if I believe in God and he's real, great. If God's real, I don't believe in him, according to the Christian standpoint, which I want to debunk that from, if you want to be with God, with love, when you pass on, you're there. It's that simple. If you believe that you're worthy of it and you want to be there, no loving father, mother, grandfather, grandmother would ever send a child away who wants to be with them, right? And our God, the divine, is no less loving than the most loving parent or grandparent we can imagine. And so I want to put that to bed, because that's something I think that we need to get beyond, is that we are loved more than we can imagine. And if we can rest in that, that just gives us so much hope and peace and joy. But for sure, the process of going through that grief, going through that healing, yes, that did solidify the faith further. I remarried a little over a year ago, and I feel like I have two husbands. I feel like I have one husband on the other side and one here. And I love them both equally. And it's just a weird kind of thing to be in between two very different relationships. One is completely on the spiritual side, and one, is on the earth. It's very, very real to me, and I can't be convinced otherwise at this point.
So, Leah, your second book is titled "It's Okay to Be Okay." Society has a script for widows. Wear black, cry constantly, and be miserable for some years. And if you smile or if you feel joy, if you feel happy too soon, people might begin to judge you. So, did you feel guilty for being okay? Did you feel like you were failing at being a widow?
Definitely, there were times when I did feel like I should be handling things differently. And I would caveat a lot of things I said with, I don't know, I felt like I had to explain myself, because I was so joyful. And I mean, yes, I still cried. I still spent probably a night a week in tears. Like, I mean, there's still the loss. It doesn't change that. But for the most part, I just felt held by something larger than me. And I felt a sense of purpose, and I was able to give to other people who were grieving or who were experiencing loss or a terminal illness or all sorts of things, and their families and friends. And that gave me such purpose that it was hard not to feel the joy and the goodness. But I definitely had moments, and I still do even. At this point, people expect that I'm okay because it's been 4 years. But for the first year or two after, when people around me, especially I would say my husband's parents, my husband's best friends, and then they're still struggling, and I don't know how to act around that. There was that feeling of sort of, I don't know if it was guilt, but it was definitely discomfort, and feeling like I wanted to honor my husband in a way that they understood, because my joy was not something they could understand in that moment. And so I would have to temper myself a little bit and just kind of be a little bit more calm, a little bit more sedate around them at first, and do more listening than talking, I think, was how I found that happy median. Because, like, I know it's true for me. I knew joy was the truth. I knew that peace was the truth. With the honest, I have to be honest there, with those moments, I need to be honest with myself. When I did feel the grief, I let it come up, right? You don't want to bury that. Just because you feel joy one day and sad the next, that's allowed. We're human. We're emotional. That's part of being human. And so we needed to acknowledge that. But when I felt joyful, and I was around someone who was suffering still from his passing, I just was very careful to be just a witness to what they were feeling and just be a calm presence beside them. But I didn't need to say anything that wasn't true about my own experience. And I hoped in that way that I could just be there for them on their journey. So yeah, I felt it, and that's how I dealt with it.
All right, all right. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Leah. So you read 500 plus near-death experiences, and that's indeed a lot of data. So was there any specific recurring theme in those stories that you held on to when you were standing at your husband's funeral?
Wow. So there's things I take out overall at the funeral. I think one of the ones, so this isn't really NDEs, it's more other experiences, more spiritual experiences that weren't NDEs, where the loved one will pass on and send messages back. And that would be explained of like how they communicate with us. And it's simple, simple things. For instance, I'll tell you a funny story that my husband did for me. It was just one meaningful, one funny. I drove a Honda Civic Hybrid for years. And the Honda Civic Hybrid at the time is one of the first hybrids, and it wasn't very powerful.
Mm.
And there was a car that went around us. It was, more of a sports car. And in the back of it had a license plate and it said money and the number 1, money 1. And the car zoomed around us. And he made this whole joke, because he was kind of a comedian, about how, money 1 is trying to compete with the mighty Civic Hybrid, all this. And it became a joke anytime a sports car would go around the hybrid, that the boys would hear this, it's money 1. And a couple weeks after he passed, we were at a ball game, and there was a giant advertisement for a credit union entitled Money 1. And we're all just looking at it. It was just little moments, right, that you're like, oh, I don't know if that was him or just coincidence. The other one was on his birthday, which was about a week after he passed, was his 42nd birthday. And I was having a really, really hard time. And the boys wanted to listen to country music on the way up to my grandmother's house. And country music is just not the best thing to listen to if you're grieving. It's either love songs or it's Everybody Died. And either one is just not a good fit for where I was emotionally. And I was struggling as a result of that. An hour plus of listening to this music was dragging me down. On the way home, I went to go turn the music on for the kids, and the car worked. Everything in the car worked except for the radio. I tried 5 different things. I kept everything I could possibly think of to get the radio to work for the kids. I'm trying to take care of them, make sure they're happy. Nothing would work. So I drove home in silence, and it was so peaceful and healing to not have to have that. As soon as we pulled in the driveway, the radio kicked back on again. And it's those little things that, that connection that's still there, that you're taken care of, you're loved. And that person, that soul is still there for you. That's never changing. And it's being willing to look at, and you know what? If that was just coincidence, I could probably have 20 or 30 other stories like that have happened. And if every single one of them's coincidence that I'm reading into, I'm happier for believing that it's real, as far as those little things are concerned.
Mm.
And as far as the lessons from the NDEs, I don't know if there was anything specific that helped me with grief, aside from, like I said, about having a plan for your life. But I think the most important thing to remember is the extent of how much you're loved. Because if you know how much you are loved, and you can let yourself off the hook, because I think we feel so guilty and ashamed. So many world religions, I grew up Christian, but I know this is true across a lot of religions, put you in a place of guilt and shame, of having to meet certain requirements to have a good relationship with God. And all God wants is your heart. All the divine wants is you. And I think we need to revisit that and come back to love, and that you are loved more than you can possibly imagine. And that every single thing that happens in your life is held and treasured and is only there. The pain, the difficulties are only there to help you grow. And when you come out of this life and you go to the other side, you're going to look back at your life as if it was like a trip, a vacation. It's such a blip in eternity. And the lessons that you learn and all the things that you grew from, it's like a stadium of applause cheering you on. Look what you did here. Look what you did there. Look how you grew. Look how you developed. We're so proud of you. And I think that was a lesson I took away. Yes, there's things that you're going to be shown too and said, hey, you kind of messed up there, but we still love you. You really could have done a better job on this one. You really may have hurt that person, but you know what? We have them too. And it's okay. Did you learn from it? And that's sort of that loving, imagine the most loving parent you possibly can. Amplify it times 100. And that's what God's like. God's not there trying to punish you or force you into something that, he's there to love you and guide you and help you to grow. And I think that is, so important for us, because when we feel loved, when you know how much you're loved, you can give that gift to somebody else. If you think about it, when you are at your best is when you are able to give your best to someone else. When you know that you're okay, when you know that you're valued, when you know you have worth, that allows you to treat others as if they have value and worth, because they do. And so I think that's the most important lesson I've learned, is to love myself, not in the kind of way of, pamper myself and, treat myself to this, that, and the other, but truly value my soul. And doing so, value yours and everybody else that I meet in that way.
All right. So for the listener who is probably, for someone who is grieving right now, maybe they lost a spouse, a job, or something dear to them, and they catch themselves laughing at a joke or enjoying a cup of coffee and immediately feel a pang of guilt. So what do they need to tell themselves in that moment?
Going back to that loving parent, grandparent, however you want to see it, do they want you to be sad? Or do they want you to live in a way that is your best self? And so in that moment, even if you've been a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or even a big sister, a big brother, and you're really good at that, and you have a small child there, and they've just had something terrible happen to them, what do you want for that child? You want them to experience it, right? To feel it, to cry if they need to, but then to be able to turn from that with the lessons learned and grow and celebrate life. And so anytime that you are in that moment where you have joy, I talk about in the book, living the why. You had this happen, you lost your job, you lost your spouse, you lost your child, your parent, whoever it was. What's the why? What can you learn from it? And how can you celebrate their memory? My late husband, we talk about him all the time in our house. We celebrate him all the time. And it's a joyful thing. We have pictures of him up in the house still. It doesn't change. And we can have that celebration, that honoring doesn't have to be sad. It can be, and that's okay. But it can also be joyful. It can also be a celebration of what they gave you. And you can honor their legacy by living from the love that they had for you. So, yeah, that's what I would encourage.
All right. That's a really great one. I hope it helps someone who might need it. So, Leah, for you personally, after studying the afterlife and navigating the loss of your husband to find a new life, I'd like to know, at this present moment, what does being successful truly mean to you?
Being successful to me, and this is honestly recently, I don't even care if anyone knows my name. Like, we joked when we got on here that my name is something different than my actual name because it's my email address. It came up funny. And that's perfect. If no one knows my name, I don't care. I just want them to know the truth about who they are and give them hope. And if I can do that, that's success. To be able to give that to my children, I'm a teacher, to give it to my students, to give it to everybody I meet. If I can love the person in front of me with everything I have and give them some of the joy that I've had the wonder and to have in my life, that is success to me. So it's simple, but I think it's easier said than done. It's so easy to get caught in the what ifs, the fears, the anxieties, the regrets. But we're here to learn to love, place of what is sometimes not love. But we're here to bring the love. And love takes all kinds of shapes and forms. But being that to everybody I meet is success.
All right. So finally, Leah, for our listeners who want to go read your books or visit your blog or maybe just connect with you, so where is the best place for them to go?
Sure. So my website, thecontemplativechristian.com, is the one-stop shop for everything. And I'm really excited because you caught me on a good day. Today, I just finished the audiobook for At the Edge of the Jordan, and it's for free on Substack. So if you are interested, I know a lot of people I talk to, if you're listening to a podcast, you may not be a reader. You may be an audiobook person, right? You might want to listen to your content. And I've met so many people who said, oh my gosh, I really want to read your book, but I don't read books. I listen. And so I finally took the time. It snowed a lot in the East Coast last week, and I just sat down and recorded the book and put it up chapter by chapter. And so it's up and live. So if you're interested in just reading the book for free and just hearing it, please jump on Substack and look me up, The Contemplative Christian, and you can enjoy that for free. If you want to buy the books, you can go to my blog, thecontemplativechristian.com. The Amazon links are there. And of course, I'd be honored to have that as well and connect with me anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Leah. It's been a really great time having a conversation with you, and I'm truly, truly excited to have you on the show today. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you. Thanks for being a great host.